Good morning. This is Dr. Bill White again with the American Orthodontic Society, and I want to talk to you some about Class 3 malocclusions and the problem that we have with them. Now, I've been dealing with Class 3 cases for years, a long time, and I've watched from all sorts of directions. And nearly all Class 3s that I've seen, I would find somebody in the family or somebody that had a similar problem, so there's a lot of genetics in there. Now, the person forming the Class 3 that we call genetics would possibly be doing the same thing wrong that the next one. Now, most of it is genetic, and I've seen, I've finished young men when they were 17 or 18, they'd be a perfect Class 1, and they'd go off to school or go somewhere, and when they got 20, 21, even 22, some of them would grow, have a forward growth of the mandible would kind of come out, and they'd become slightly Class 3 again. So I came up with a method of retaining these, which I've shown this in the video here, but and you can go look at that and see it better. I want to just touch for a little while some of the real causes of the Class 3, and I've got a case here that's real good on that. It's not a real good picture, but this is this young man who's Class 3, and his jaw's kind of shifted off to the left over here just a little bit. If you kind of come down like that, not very much, but it's shifted to the left to some extent, and you look at it from the side view, and you'll see where his upper lip comes down, something like that, and then the bottom lip starts in here, and we're going to look at this, and the person doing the surgery is going to say, well, we'll just move this back. And if you just move that back, that's not enough, because the person has gotten accustomed to the tongue being out in this area right here, and you move this in, you crowd the tongue, then the tongue comes back and pushes on the whole thing, and the Class 3 will tend to come back, and there are many cases where they relapse like that. Now, if you learn how to do the retention of it, the retention tends to pull the upper forward over a period of time, and it gets it out here where it's part of the cause of this, and they have to bring their tongue down in the bottom arch. Now, this can come about by mouth breathing. If a person's a bad mouth breather, the tongue stays in the lower arch. If you're breathing through the mouth, you're going to breathe on top of the tongue, and that keeps the tongue in the bottom arch, and the bottom arch will outgrow the upper arch in nearly every case. It's a chronic mouth breather. Now, I'm not a chronic mouth breather, but I've suffered with mouth breathing for years, and my lower jaw kind of comes forward, and I tend to bite my cheeks on both sides, and that's just something that's caused by mouth breathing. And let's look on to this again. Now, you take a person who is a mouth breather, and they push their lower jaw out. The tongue is pushing on this part out, and it gets to where you're hitting on nothing but cusp, and a lot of times the person will shift their jaw to one side or the other so that the cusps go down in the grooves, and they can chew a little better, and the same thing would go over on the other side. So he has shifted his lower jaw to the left to start, and that shifts the condyles back here in the back. You move your condyle over, and if you go that way for a long time, a period of time, the condyle and fossa on one side will be different from that on the other side. It'll grow to accommodate the shift that you've done in the jaw. Now you say, well, how do you know that? If you just watch enough cases like this in class 3, you'll see why this takes place like that. Now I'm going to jump over to another model, and we shift back to the other side. And this is the jaw shifted over there, which made the class 3 worse. This molar right here should be fitting right in this area, should be coming down in this area here, something like that. And we've got about that much of a class 3 problem on the right side of the mouth. So when you shift this way, it brings the molar forward, right like that. This cuspid should come down in this groove right here, and it's shifted to that left side. Now we look at the left side. The problem over here, the molar's not near as bad. See, but it is shifted some. So when you shift your jaw over, this side will stay pretty much like it was, or maybe a little bit worse, but the other one will get worse than it normally is. So that's happened in this case. It more or less indicates that this young man may have genetic class 3 problem, but he's also most likely has been a chronic mouth breather or something during his youth, earlier on in his life, that's shifted the jaw. You can have a habit of sleeping on the chin or other things that can make the jaw grow to one side or other. Now let's go on with it. Now this is not a full picture, but it shows the jaw is shifted. If you look at this line down through the center, that should be right up in there. And you see where the shift of the midline. Let me go back on this. You see, this is moved from here to there, and that would cause that same curvature in the palate up there. So now, and when you shift over there, that changes this angle altogether. Now he had a few problems in there. This was regular old orthodontics, just need to rotate some teeth. Got a crowded problem down here associated with the jaw shift too. This is a real nice young man, and he's getting ready to go to the service. He's in the Marine Corps, and he's going to be serving in the first war over in the east there, and he was in a dangerous position. And so I had to work fast. They wanted me to get him out of these, or they wanted to send him to Iraq, and so we did, but we got him treated. Now this is coming down in the right position. Everything is just about as fast as we could get him there, and it went from that to this to there. See? All right. Now from the front. All right, just shift it over. Now there's where we got his jaw moved to the center, and that's where it was to start. We pull this back to the back, put the cuspid down in the were pretty close to the interdigitation that we wanted, and had the cusp going up in the grooves. And you can see where it was to start with. So we widened this maxillary arch out and got it over on the right side. Let me see if we can. You see where the maxillary arch now is closing, and you see where it was when we started. All right, we got ready to send him overseas to Iraq, and the Marine Corps would not let him wear any type of retention. So I had to fix his mouth up. Now they did let me keep a 3-to-3 retainer on the case, but they stopped him from wearing his upper retainer. They screwed up there, and so it relapsed, and you see what a relapse happens in here. All right, we got that straightened up from there, and here he is after we had operated on him. There is his facial structure, and there he is. He's got his teeth back in line. There's the chin when we started, and there's where he looked when we got through. Now, see where this jaw is. They did a beautiful job bringing the jaw back, but look at this right here. Not that one. Let's go back right quick here. And you see where that was the same place. Now when he moves, now the lower jaw is going to move back, but this is not going to go back with it. And you see the lower jaw's back. It looks great. The guy looks good. His teeth are occluding properly and everything, and he leaves to go. So we put in retention that would have kept this thing back. In other words, we're pulling back on this, and it's pushing forward on this retainer. And the retainer fits real tight, and we fix it where you can't already pull it out. And these class 3 elastics will make the maxilla come forward if the relapse in there, they're trying to push the lower teeth in a forward direction. So we are holding them back with this class 3 retention. And if he had worn this, this is what we would use on somebody in the States. You know, operating on the upper jaw is a tough thing, and the bottom jaw is tough enough. Now, some good old surgeons, I know one that operates on both jaws in a way, and it is a tough thing. I have scrubbed in on them, and I know what I'm talking about. Operate on the top of jaw. The upper jaw is a real problem, and I can see why a lot of the old surgeons, they'll just operate on the bottom jaw and hope that it lasts. Then they have to redo them over again. All right, here they operated, got this back, and the cusp is fitting right down in the groove. But these teeth are where they were. These bottom teeth moved back. And when they move back, they crowd the tongue, and the tongue is one of the big things that makes the class 3. I mean, that's what pushes the lower jaw out further. All right. Now here, you see, we put this retainer in, we've got it fixed. It's a acrylic thing. It snaps in here, and you can't already pull it out. And we wear an elastic from the top, and we try to bracket or bond on to about bicuspid to bicuspid on the bottom arch, if possible. And this pulling this back will put force on this to bring this forward. And that's what happens when we take out these 6-year molars down here. We start off like that, and we have very little problem with relapse on the cases we've done by extracting the molars on the bottom. We had too much space down here, so we closed some of the space where the retainer is pulling these teeth forward, and as it pulls these forward, down on the bottom it pulls these back. I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. As we pulls these forward up above, and it pulls this back on the bottom down here, and that little bit of force will frequently keep from having to do the surgery over again. So the surgeons like you for doing that. Now here we bond onto that, and this is the retainer in the mouth. Now this is a good composite material, and you snap this retainer in over this hump of this material, and here's a hook on it. We bring the elastic out. This is a mirror stuck in the mouth. This elastic goes to the front of the mouth and brings the front back, or holds it there, and it'll make the upper go forward some. And if they wear that enough, it'll stay there, and it'll bring the upper arch forwards, and it'll bring the lower jaw back further, and you won't have the relapse in doing a single jaw class 3 correction that you normally would. And that's I have used that in many cases. All right, there's this retainer, how it's hooked up. Put this in there. This pulls this forward, and it pulls the upper forward and the lower jaw back. And if you wear this enough, it'll correct the class 3. All right. There it is in the mouth again. And we had this bonded to the bicuspid, So you got this whole group of teeth bonded together, and we're pulling back on, this is moving in the backward direction by the elastics hooked down here on cuspids. And that's pulling, and that pulls this back and pulls the upper jaw forward. So, and now the tongue was the one that was cheated out. It brings the tongue more room up above. As you take the room away from the tongue down here on the bottom, you're giving it to it on the top, up above, and we've saved doing surgery a second time on a lot of cases. Now this young man came back, they wouldn't let him wear the retainer. And that's what we use in the front of the mouth. We're holding that in one solid unit. That's a pretty heavy wire bonded onto these teeth in here, and it'll carry this whole unit back as we pull. It's going in this direction, and the upper's coming in the forward direction. And if you do that, you can control what needs to be a double jaw operation by using a single jaw. In fact, if you just got the teeth straight and put this on somebody, and they actually wore the thing for a long time, you could correct the class 3 with it. So that's another thing that might be done. But people don't know how to put these retainers in. You don't want any clasp going over them. You put this composite to hold the retainer up above. You have to snap one side out, and then the other side will come out. You put it in and put one on, and then this, it'll click when it goes in place. And when that thing goes in place, you can't take that retainer out without jumping over that hump. You have to spread it out a little, get one side down, then you can take the other side down. All right, that's something we came up with several years ago to keep from having to do these double jaw surgeries again. All right, here are the retainers in the mouth, and you say, well, that little rubber band will do. George, that little rubber band will do more than you think it will. If you wear this thing, it's going to tend to elevate this some. But if you got somebody that chews good and everything, it'll work. And he'll wear this, and it pulls this back, and it pulls this forward, and it gives more room for the tongue up here, and the tongue pushing on this, and this will keep this relationship. But now he did not, or was not able to wear that retainer. So here he is in his uniform. Now, he came home, and thank God he didn't get killed or anything. And he came back, he didn't look all that bad. See, the surgery looked pretty good. The facial structure looks good enough, and he elected just to continue with it like that. But here it is. Remember, when we started, it was pretty much like that. Now, the center has stayed the same, but the lower jaw has come forward, and it's caught up with the upper jaw. It's got an end-to-end bite. You can kind of look, this 6-year molar should be back over here. So he's got some relapse by not wearing it. The midline's not off all that bad, but it's off some, and so we've lost part of the treatment that we had by him not wearing that retainer. And so we haven't put that back. We could come back now, and if he wears this retainer enough, and we keep this rigid wire still on there, and you come in, you'd have to put some hooks down here on these cuspids and put a retainer back with a class 3 elastic on it, and you could correct this, or you could have treated it to start with from that position. So I'm going to wind up here. This is a bad picture, but that's the way it came back, and that's the way it happens. So I want you to understand that many class 3s are caused by the tongue pushing the bottom arch forward. If the jaw's sticking out here and you just pull it back here and work on the lower jaw, then you rob the tongue immediately of its space, and it'll push against the upper, and the tongue will push against the upper, but it slips out and comes down to the bottom, and it'll end up similar to what it was to start with. So I hope you understand a little better class 3 problems and how you can put this type of retention in, and you can save a lot of surgery on there by doing that. And the surgeons will love you if where they can just do it by treating the lower jaw and leaving the upper jaw alone. Now the orthodontist has to fix the lower and upper jaw where they coordinate and meet, of course. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope you have gotten something out of this, and I'm going to leave, and I hope you'll sign up with our program and subscribe to it. We'd love to have you in it. So I'll sign up. This is a bad picture here, but I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll get off of here.